All right, everyone, this is Fernando for an all new My Movie Review podcast. Well, this was actually a movie that I saw, I think, around Christmas time with the family, and it was just a total surprise, something I had no plans on seeing, but catching it there and then seeing what happened afterward, it was definitely something that just All right, everyone, this is Fernando for an all new My Movie Review podcast. Well, this is actually a movie that I saw during Christmas time just this past year, and it was with the family, and it was just totally just unplanned for. But after seeing this movie and then watching it and then thinking about it afterward, I thought to myself, this was actually a pretty good film. This was something that I came in with pretty much no expectations at all, but left with something as far as great acting, good storyline, some riveting action scenes, although the ending is just the only thing that hampered things. And I'll talk about that more here in a minute. But I'm talking about the probably the worst example of road rage gone wrong when it comes to this film, which is called Unhinged. So let's go ahead and let's talk about my review here, and then I'll give the stars at the very end. And then that way, if you have a chance, check out the movie too. I'll include the links for it below, and then you'll be able to see what the movie's about and then post your comments as well. So pretty much Unhinged is again a road rage example gone to hell. Everyone has that road rage, right? Everyone has it in their towns, no matter how big or small that is. You've seen it, I've seen it. Hell, there's probably a good chance that you are in turn a road rager and help cause that calamity throughout the streets. Well, this is the movie that showcases when things go too far as that road rage. Finally, when one person has been pushed too far in their lives and they happen to meet up with another person, wrong place at the wrong time, basically, that person in turn gets the wrath of this road rager, the mother of all wraths. That's essentially what Unhinged is. So the movie starts off pretty much with a bang, like almost in the sense that you see Russell Crowe's character mysteriously show up at a house, and then what he does there to the people, it slowly starts making more and more details into his life, into what occurred, essentially why he's doing what he's doing, how that leads to him finally snapping with that road rage moment. It's a film that almost like an onion, the more you peel on it, the more layers come across, but it still leaves some unquestioned stuff afterward. So it doesn't necessarily fill in all the blanks when it comes to these things, but in essence, it still gives a pretty riveting story throughout that timeline. And I think it gives a good enough good information for you to realize, what's going on with the characters and why they're doing what they're doing. And it does it pretty well. So again, a welcome surprise when it came to seeing this film and then realizing essentially just how it came out afterward. The acting, so first let's talk about the pros. Yeah, the acting is top notch. I mean, Russell Crowe, what can you say? He's someone that I've been a fan of for a good number of years. Probably my favorite movie of his is actually one of the more quiet turns that he did with American Gangster. If you haven't had a chance to see that, I highly recommend it. Here, he's almost unrecognizable with the supreme weight that he gained for this role. And I believe actually he gained it for another movie. I think it was one about Fox News and he was playing Roger Ailes. So this is probably him in between that timeline. In other words, kind of like slimming down, or maybe who knows, gaining weight for that other role. And then this is what got him here. But it added so much more to his character. I mean, having him in that big, big truck, that road rage perfect type truck, and then him with the full on beard and then the shades that you see, always with the knuckles like almost white on the steering wheel. Again, this is every road rager's dream come true when it comes to the films, because you get to see what almost their quote unquote hero would do in their situation whenever something goes wrong, somebody cuts them off, and so on. The young lady that plays the actress, she does a really good job too. I can't remember her name, but she in essence plays the victim that Russell Crowe goes after throughout the majority of the film, almost like he's teaching her a lesson, because I'm not going to spoil it too much, but she in turn treats him in a very bad way throughout an early part of the film. And so he wants to teach her a lesson as to how she should treat people. Otherwise, that's the wrath that they'll get afterwards. And that's essentially what he does throughout the film. Of course, he's playing a psycho and he's twisting these things in his version of some kind of poetic justice. And it's really just him going on a violent streak. But you get to see her and everything that happens to her. And again, she plays it really, really well. There's some other cast members there too, playing, I think it was not her son, but her kid brother, if I'm not mistaken. And then some others there too. So yeah, good acting on that part. As far as the action, as you're seeing here, it's pretty good. It's a low, quiet film with impactful moments, if that makes sense. Like, in other words, it's not going to be a die-hard movie where something is happening every single minute. No, instead, it's just like a slow build-up throughout certain scenes, and then boom, the action hits, and then more build-up with some pretty riveting scene settings, especially when, like, let's say Russell Crowe meets, like his character meets some of the other characters that he's in turn hunting because he wants to get revenge on her. So that's pretty riveting stuff. But yeah, as far as those action scenes, they're through and through and pretty well made. Music was okay. I didn't really pay too much attention to it. The directing was pretty good too. Especially, I mean, how many scenes can you make watchful if they're taking inside of a car, if they're taking place inside of a car, as most of these scenes here do. But they were able to do a pretty good job on that part. Now, the cons that I was mentioning earlier was the ending. So, without spoiling things too much again, the ending to me seemed like it was almost like a rewrite. Like, in other words, she is there, she's the victim, she's someone that's persecuted by him throughout the entire film, and then at the very end, she turns the tables. Like she almost becomes, I don't know if you could call it like a superhero, but she almost becomes like that magic woman that's able to just take him down. And I thought to myself, where did that come from? Especially with all the build up and everything else happening in the previous 90 minutes that showed her, just as you see in that expression that she's doing now, just basically, looking fearful and running for her life and looking worried and not knowing what to do. All of a sudden, she takes almost like a John McClane turn straight from Die Hard, and then that's when she's able to take him out afterwards. So I thought it screamed to me more along the lines of a rewrite. Like if there was a focus group that said to themselves, you know what, the movie was great, but she didn't do anything at the end. That's what it seemed like to me. Like that's what that rewrite at least appears when I was reading the information, seeing it on screen. So that's the only gripe that I have. Everything else though was pretty solid as far as the film, the way it was made, and so on. This is actually an interesting film too because it was supposed to come out like multiple times last year, but just like most other films that were facing the pandemic at the time, they just got delayed and delayed and delayed until finally it was just pretty much released on a limited stance. I think it was actually one of the last major films, if you could call it that, that was released just before theaters shut down. And so because of it, it was really hampered. And so from that, that's when it was instead given another major release on VOD. And that's essentially where I got to see it afterward. But yeah, otherwise, Unhinged is a pretty solid film. Overall, I would give it 4 out of 5 stars. Probably it would have been like 3 stars, but no, I think it stayed solid enough to be right up there under the 4 stars, maybe a low four, in other words. And I think it would have had a much better title if it was called instead Rage or something along those lines, like Road Rage or Rage instead of Unhinged. Who knows? Maybe that was probably played around at the beginning, but otherwise it was changed to Unhinged. But yes, definitely go check it out if you have a chance. Check it out from the links below. You'll get to see it, and then why Russell Crowe once again knocks it out the ballpark whenever he's playing. In this case, bad guy. That's another thing too. I was going to mention. It's interesting to see him play a bad guy now because usually he's playing the big hero, the guy that's almost like the action star, somebody that is doing right. Here in this case, no, it's the complete opposite. So it's quite a rare turn to see him go about with regards to that. So, all right, everyone. Thanks again as always. Take care.